Wow, that was fast. Hey, everybody. This is Sound Booth Radio 1061. And we're here with a very special show tonight. Our Artists Against Violence show. Trying to stop the violence here in Tuscaloosa. I am joined tonight. Well, first of all, I am yours truly, Big Mike. And we're joined here tonight with distinguished mayor of our city, Mr. Walt Maddox. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, and I appreciate you having me on, Big Mike.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. We also have part of the Sound Booth family, uh, MC Buck Dollar. How you doing, Buck?
Man, I can barely hear you, Mike, but I'm doing well. How you doing, Mr. Maddox?
Hey, how you doing, Buck?
Doing well. Glad to be on with y'all.
And of course, right now we also have one of our voice personalities, Miss MJ, is on the line also. How you doing, MJ?
Hey, I'm good.
Uh, we're expecting a few other people to join into the conversation here real soon, but the mayor has other present engagement, so we're gonna get started tonight. If you are listening in, just go ahead on and share it to your pages so that everybody can check this out. I think this is a very important topic that everybody needs to hear and come up with. Uh, Mr. Mayor, I understand a couple of weeks ago that there was a leadership conference, and of course, at this particular moment in time, not much has been said about the conference. Is there anything you can tell us about what might have gone on in said conference?
Um, I hope, and you tell me if I'm wrong. I think you're referring to a meeting that Chief Sanders and Chief Blakely and I had, and Councilor Wilson with local pastors.
Yes.
Is that yeah? That was something Chief Sanders put together, and he invited, and I appreciate the invitation uh, from Chief to come and not only address the group. I did very little talking. I was, as in the book of James says, be quick to listen and slow to speak. And so we sat and we listened and we heard. I thought Chief Sanders did a really good job of outlining the challenges that we have in our community. The city plays a role in this, and there's no doubt, and we have to play even more of a role. But if we're going to curb this senseless violence, this soul-crushing violence that we got to have all hands on deck, including our local ministers, our pastors. They can reach people in ways that I may never be able to, or the police may never be able to. We all have got a role to play, and that meeting was about engaging and saying, we need you to reach out, because if you stay in the walls of your church and we just focus on these things, we will not be successful.
I absolutely agree. Were there any recommendations that were hatched out in that meeting that you can speak of?
There's been none to my knowledge. Now Chief Sanders may have more information, but number one, they agreed that we've got to do something. Number two, that pastors play a key role in this. And number three, based off what we heard last night at City Council, they have formed an outreach group called Pastors Reach Out, PRO. And they're going to begin reaching out into communities. And what they said, which I think is important, is what they want to do sustainable. That's the key. I mean, we can do one event and everybody walk away and feel good, but if it's not sustainable in the lives of our young people who need our sustained efforts, it will not be successful. And if they can sustain that, we amplify our efforts. We as individuals, as a community, come together. I think there's many things that we can do to curb the type of senseless violence that we're seeing. Today, Dr. Jackson and our school board member, Thompson Jackson, most people know Karen Thompson, Dr. Karen Thompson Jackson, and I met, and one of the topics we discussed was what can we do at a very young age to make certain that we're reaching our children who have the most acute needs, and making sure we get the wraparound services, because we know, and I apologize, I'm talking too much, but we know at third grade, or not we, the school system knows which children are facing both academic and behavioral deficits. And for the most part, which children are coming from environments that are going to later on in life put them at risk. But we really don't do anything with that data. And so a child progresses, and as they become more academically behind, generally the behavior increases. And before you know it, we're dealing with the child at 13, 14, 15, 16 that has put themselves in a life situation. The intervention there is going to be more likely to fail than succeed. And so one of the things we want to engage our school system with is how can we identify at a young age and intervene in a way that's productive and helpful. Now, that's not going to solve everything, but if we can solve 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 2, that would make a real dent in the problems that we're facing.
But Mr. Mayor, we also have joining us Miss Amaria. She's another one of our teenagers that is a member of the Teen Summit, as well as Jay Sean, both members of our Teen Summit. And y'all forgive me if anybody else can pop in. I am. I'm and Stan G. He just popped in also. Well, so I just wanted to, first of all, I wanted to try to get some of the inputs from. Let's start with the artist on the phone on the line right now. Buck Dollar, what are some of the challenges that you've been noticing here in Tuscaloosa? You're from and raised in Tuscaloosa. You were born and raised here in Tuscaloosa. What are some of the challenges that you've noticed going on here in Tuscaloosa?
Like I said, good evening to everybody.
Good evening.
Part of the issue, like I said, I'm born and raised here in Tuscaloosa. We do have a lack of, let's say, trust when it comes to law enforcement in the community. We seem to continue to, in my opinion, put band-aids on the same problems over and over again. From the times when I was coming up, and I'm pretty sure everybody on here can speak to that, the level of firearms that are available out here on the street, you literally went from maybe revolvers and maybe 9mm, and now you got kids with Dracos, AK-47s, and we're talking about 11, 12, 13-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a deficiency, in my opinion, based on from my time being here as a teenager up to adulthood. What do we really have to engage teenagers with? Outside of the skating ring, the mall, maybe the movie theater, and now we have Shindig and Upsurge, and that's cool, but even still, the availability of that, look where it's centrally located. You have a complete deficit of things, in my opinion, like resources that's unavailable, or maybe some things just haven't been targeted in that direction when you speak of West Tuscaloosa. I grew up with kids that grew up in River Chase and Wellington. I was in the gifted classes with those kids. There's a big difference in the way that we come up and the way that we see the world. And maybe it's just a lack of empathy, you know what I'm saying, in some cases. Not all. But what I do see is that it's the same thing going on over and over again. And I'm not sure exactly what, the quick solution would be, because maybe we don't need another quick solution. Maybe we need something long term, something that's going to be, it's going to take some steps, and it's going to need a whole lot of more of understanding, a lot more unity, a lot more people really just being blunt with each other and saying, hey, this is what's going on. These kids are acting out this way and that way because of this. If I'm a child growing up in Tuscaloosa and I'm more familiar with seeing law enforcement come by and interact with me, and it's not always on something that's negative, that sort of changes my perspective. However, in that same light, we do have an outcry from law enforcement that says, hey, you know, we got Crime Stoppers. We need y'all to say this. We need y'all to say that. Okay, that's all. You want us to band together and help you out when something goes on? Well, the community has been saying for years, well, law enforcement, when you see one of your guys acting up, when you step across that blue line and speak up for the citizens, there's a lack of that. And it's not just here in Tuscaloosa. You know what I'm saying? This is something nationwide that we're continuously dealing with. And now we're in a situation where we have the internet. So things that probably took a little while to come to the light, everything is coming out there a lot faster. You know what I'm saying? How do we jump in front of this? You know, what do we do as far as the social media aspect? Because I still feel like a lot of things that we're doing in our community and even with our local government is reactive instead of being proactive. You know, and that's where we keep, if we're always reacting to something, that means we're steps behind, not a step behind, but several steps behind, because we're missing out on something along the way. What is it that we're missing out in the school zone? You know what I'm saying? What are we not catching out here in the neighborhood that's getting into our schools and now making it to the news? It's too late once this person is being arrested, when we could have had some interaction with that child a long time back. Like I said, the resources are there. I really think to a point that we need to evaluate who this money is going to, because there are people who can go into that classroom and to these communities, and there's certain people that they can reach, and that's cool. But there are some, if you've never been through that struggle, if you've never lived like that, almost to a savage mentality, how do you go in there and talk to that kid? A billboard here and a commercial there. Like I said, I'm tired of marching. I'm tired of going to do these stop the violence rallies. That's too late. You know, I'm trying to see what is it that we can do. I'm thankful now that I'm working in the school system here. And I have been working, you know, through the Adopt a School initiative and everything. So that's something that I grew up in and was a part of. It didn't necessarily deter me all the way from some of the stuff that I got involved with, but it did bring me back. I think the Adopt a School is awesome. I think there's other ways that we can get some people who really are, let's just say, you know, they from that element, whether they have been out of prison for 10 or 15 years and changed their life around. Bring these guys forward because they know the mentality of that kid sitting there compared to an individual who didn't come up that way. I'm not saying that their life has been squeaky clean or anything, but if you've never been put in a situation where you've almost pretty much been forced to sell narcotics or rob or whatever because lights were getting cut off, no food, no clothes and stuff, you don't know that mentality, then you're not going to understand where that kid is coming from. And you can put a whole bunch of stuff in front of them. But at the end of the day, if he or she doesn't feel comfortable and they say, this may last only a couple of days, I'm still going to have to go back to what I've known my entire life.
But
So like I said, I'm here just pleading on the behalf of the hip hop side because I know music gets a bad reputation because of the stuff that we say. Some of it is negative and doesn't have any place, but a lot of it is literally telling you this is what the kids' minds are on. And if you ignore that, then you face the consequences later when it's all spread all over the newspaper and the news outlets, and it's all on social media that this person that got shot and that person that did this. They were already telling you in their songs what was going on there. They was telling you what they style of dress. It's not like gang activity and everything is new here in Tuscaloosa. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of stuff that I think like we've just failed to address, or maybe we have and we just hadn't been consistent enough. So, you know, that's what I'm saying. I'm here to be part of the solution, period.
Can I just say, and I think that that's becoming a type of a scapegoat thing as well as a lot of the older people in town are saying, you know, gang related, drug related, and I don't think that all the violence that's been going on has been attributed to either one.
right,
And of course, the people that are having to deal with it the most. We have some, and by the way, thank you for tuning in. We got the CEO of Big Boy Entertainment on here, Big Boy himself. How you doing, sir?
how you doing, man?
I'm great. I'm great. And I'm gonna get to you in just one second, but I want to let some of the young people speak on what we're talking about right now. We have Miss Amaria Jackson. We have Miss MJ on the line as well as Jay Sean. And so I'm go ladies first, and I'm gonna start with MJ. MJ, uh, can you kind of express what your thoughts about the violence going on? Why do you think it's going on, and like why do you think that everybody seems to want to have their own weapon and gun? Um, almost as necessary as carrying your own purse or wallet. What do you think about that?
Right. Okay, so I feel like people lead to weapons because they don't want to show their real strength. So I know growing up, I'm not that old, I'm only 17, but I know growing up, if kids had a problem, we would fight it out or something, we talk it out or along those lines. Nowadays, it's you either leave me alone or I'm going to shoot you
Right.
or along those lines. And I feel it's because people don't have the real strength or the real courage to acknowledge that they don't really know what their problem is. They just lead to the weapons and feel like, oh, okay, this can solve a big problem. No, it's just making it worse.
Okay. I'm gonna go to Jay Sean next.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, because I'm in the country, my service will get a little bad down here. But I wanna I wanna tug on a little subject that his name is Buck Dollar Sign, that he said, and I kind of agree with what he was saying about, like, some kids, they be so deep into sports. When you gotta catch them young, because some when they get to a certain grade level, some of the grades and stuff, they start smelling themselves, and then girls get in their way or boys get in their way, and then some of the work, it becomes hard for them, and then they don't have no parent to help them at home. The parents don't care for them. They doing other stuff. They ain't got nobody to fall back on. So then they go to the streets and they get all the support, so-called support, that they want from the streets, and then they just become rooted. The streets raise them basically, and the parents don't do nothing for them. But and to answer your question, I think people carry around guns and stuff. I don't even want to say for protection, because I'm gonna put it like this. The only person I fear is God, and I don't have to carry no type of gun, no type of knife, or nothing for my protection, because all my protection is in that Bible. All I gotta do is flip over a couple strips, say a couple scripts over my life, and go on about my day. But some of them, like Madison was saying, when we was young, we used to fight it out, we used to talk it out. Some of them just they get around their parents, and some of their parents was like that as a young age. They were hotheads, and they get it exactly from their parents. Their parents hand them all this stuff. The mama tell them nah, but they get around their daddy, or their daddy tell them nah, and they get around their mama. And their mama their parents get to teaching them how to do all this, how to sell drugs, how to shoot a gun, how to aim a gun, and they just get so fascinated in until they start wanting to be like that. They see how their parents' lifestyle are, so they trying to live like them. So most of it really starts at home. It starts at home, because if you really never hear about no spoiled kid for real. They call spoon fed or fed from a silver spoon. You never really see them out in the streets. It's more the parents, like the less fortunate ones. They are the most ones in the streets and stuff like that. They feel like they have to carry a gun around for protection when you don't need it for protection, for really.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, and I'm gonna get to the other people on the panel in just 1 second. The interesting thing about that, we talked about the sports analogy. We have a lot of sports activities going on for the youth right now. Para and the Tuscaloosa League just had the uh, baseball t-ball organization. I think PAL is having a baseball softball organization going on right now for the summer months. But what are the plans for youth in the fall and winter months?
Well, and I apologize. I'm going to have to leave in a few minutes. I've got a family engagement I made a promise on that I've got to keep. But let me just say, number one, this has been fantastic, and I've been taking notes. So let me, if I may, can I just work through a couple of things, and then I'll get to the youth. First, the lack of trust of law enforcement is something we realized is out there, and as Buck said, it's just not Tuscaloosa, it's throughout the nation. And in many respects, it's been earned with some of the things we've seen across our country. Now, certainly, we would never accept that, and hopefully you saw the quick actions we took last summer regarding law enforcement in our community. And we were one of the first in Alabama to take those actions, such as banning chokeholds, requiring different types of cultural training, requiring de-escalation policies, et cetera. But Chief Sanders is working earnestly to get us to a point of true community policing. Now, we've got to do some things at the city council level. We have, in law enforcement, seeing this across the nation, we have a shortage of law enforcement officers. And that shortage makes community policing impossible. Chief Anderson would say, and I agree, and we carry it on today, is that we can't hire for a heartbeat. We have to hire the best and brightest. You can't hire somebody that doesn't meet your values and their ability to grow and then expect them somehow to train that in them. And so we're very selective about who we hire, but that's something we're going to have to do a better job. About the firearms being ever increasing, that is dead on. One of the reasons why I ran for governor is the proliferation of firearms. The state is the only entity, or the federal government, that can regulate firearms. The amount of firearms that are out on the streets and the caliber that they're allowed to have, and these semi-automatic weapons, the ability to have 30 rounds, 40 rounds available for you is staggering. And I can't go into specific cases, but there have been times where someone has discharged a firearm not meaning to shoot or kill someone, but because of their inexperience of handling a firearm and not understanding the sensitive nature of the triggers themselves, somebody ends up dead and another person their life is over. And so I know there's this distrust, but if you know a young person who has a weapon, please, you can call anonymously. Let us know. If you see something, say something, because whereas when I was growing up, and I was like you, I was born and raised here in Tuscaloosa. I grew up in Idlewood, graduated from Central High School. When we got in fights, we just threw our fist around. And maybe every once in a while somebody pulled out brass knuckles or a knife. But today everybody's pulling out firearms, and just not firearms, semi-automatic weapons. And so if you see something, say something. I cannot disagree about parks and recreation. One of the mistakes we've made over the years at the city, really since 1969, but I'm part of it too, so I'm not going to take away my fault in it, is that we outsource parks and recreation. And I think what you're seeing from the city is that we're about to get more into the parks and recreation business. In my budget, I'll be recommending the construction of a new Benjamin Barnes Branch YMCA, which, that's, to me, is going to be paramount. I heard it mentioned, I can't remember which person said it, but the idea of we have our young people and they reach critical age and then there's not somebody to mentor them and then they're raised on the streets. I think the YMCA, if it had the facilities that could attract our young people, could help bridge that gap. We don't want our children to fall back on the streets as a place to get raised. And so the last thing I will say is this: I need your help. Seeing this is soul crushing, and it's every day, by the way. Every morning, PD sends me over the basically what's happened the last 24 hours, and it's soul crushing to wake up to every morning. But the city can't do it alone. I need y'all to engage the school system and the superintendent and board of education members. Our state legislators need to be engaged. I mean, our pardons and parole system is broke. Our correction system's under federal court order. And if you come out of our correction system, there's no job training. They haven't treated you for the addiction, whether it's alcohol or drugs that you have, and you have no training when it comes to technology or education attainment. and then we expect somebody to reemerge in society and be successful. That's just asinine to think that can happen. I need your help to help us engage these other stakeholders, because as long as they think that you're not going to, I say blame them, but hold them accountable, they're never going to step up to the plate and own part of this solution. And we need that. And I think you can do that. You should hold me accountable, and you need to hold everybody accountable, from pastors to politicians and the people in between. And that's where you can really help all of us, because our young people they had no choice. They may have made bad choices, but the circumstances they were put in led to this moment. But we can all help change that and save a lot more of our children and give them a fighting chance at the American dream. And I look forward to having more of these discussions with you, because they've been helpful. I've got some notes here I'm going to be sharing with my staff in the morning. And we're going to continue to work on this. And maybe in a few weeks, we can come back on and continue the discussion.
I would very much like that, Mr. Mayor. If you can get in touch with me that same way. And I really and truly am thinking maybe next month to do another one of these. I wanted to allow, if you have just a few minutes, to allow Miss Amaria and Big Boy to say their piece real quick, and then we can carry on after that, if you have a few minutes.
Sure. Yeah, I may need you to write me an excuse note, but let's do it.
Hey, I'll write it. Miss Amaria, go ahead on, please, and say what's on your mind.
All right. Well, first of all, hi, Mr. Mayor. It's nice to see you again.
Good to see you again.
Going back to what everyone else said, pretty much just like you said, Mr. Mayor, it's literally heart crushing and hard to see every day, knowing that even though we're seeing it in other parts of the country, knowing that we're dealing with it within our own cities, probably one of the things that I'm sure all of us have to deal with and all of us have had to understand. And I say this all the time, down to young people having guns, and matter of fact, anybody having guns in general, that literally, if that's why I'm grateful for programs like this and other programs that are, like y'all said, engaging within the schools. Because I feel like a lot of us, we're there 8 hours a day. We deal with, despite what a lot of people may think, we deal with a lot outside of the educational part of school. And we learn so many lessons that aren't just a part of a curriculum. And whether that's from peers or whether from teachers, all have to get understanding. And I feel like that's where, going back to what y'all said, there's a miscommunication between a lot of systems within not only just Tuscaloosa, but our country in general. But of course, going back to, it starts at, so if we work here first, then of course we can work our way outwards. But for me personally, watching it within my city has been very impactful, because for me, especially since I do not go to city schools. Of course, as you and I have spoken before, Mr. Mayor, I'm a county school student, but I see a lot of things that happen within the city schools, and I feel like a lot of the times county schools can learn from city schools as well, communication and interaction wise. And going back to the portion of it, I feel like recently, matter of fact, in general, we literally have such an issue with firearms that it's to the point of where we created a community genocide, literally to the point where we're the ones who are attacking each other more than ever. And it's heartbreaking, especially since we all know that was someone's family member, that was someone's student, that was somebody's church member, that was somebody's best friend. And I feel like it's to the point of where we no longer see people, we see statistics instead of actually understanding, and learning what we can do as a community, but understanding what we can do as
Amari, your internet is going in and out. Um, I tell you, because he is under a time restraint. Can we go to Big Boy real quick?
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey man, what's going on?
I'm gonna be short and quick. First of all, I'm pro guns, and I taught my kids to handle guns at a young age and how and respect for guns. So I don't think guns being anti-guns or the clips are the problem. I don't understand why the city or the police haven't found a way. These 16 and 17-year-old guys cannot go buy guns. So they're getting them from somebody. I think that the city should find the source of where these kids are getting these guns from. Because you can't walk in a pawn shop and buy them. You can't walk in a cafe and buy them. Someone here is selling guns to these kids. And to solve this problem, I think that the city should get a task force together to find out who's putting these guns on the streets.
The most of the guns that we see in acts of violence are stolen, but most of them are stolen. Now you got to remember too is that most time the registrations are filed off, but most of them are coming from unlocked vehicles. You see this where it's basically go shopping down the street and you hit an unlocked vehicle. In 2019, of the 203 stolen guns that we had in the city of Tuscaloosa out of cars, 190 of those cars were unlocked. And many of those guns themselves were used in an act of violence. That's why we ask people to lock their doors, because they're becoming crimes of opportunity. Now, what was disturbing to us is that the arrests that we have made, where we have caught individuals doing this, the majorities have been juvenile. And the other problem is under Alabama's juvenile system, for the most part, that young person is going to get a slap on the wrist and come right back out. And the lesson learned is, hey, I may at worst have to stay the night at the juvenile detention center. I'll be out the next day.
And maybe that's what we need to. And maybe that's where we need to tighten up the systems on.
Yeah, that's one of our biggest problems. We don't necessarily have, to my knowledge, we don't have a seller coming in. Is that it's actually just living off the land, so to speak, and that's where those guns are out there. Of course, now they're selling them, and they're selling them cheap. I mean, where we have intervened, they're taking a $300 or $400 weapon and selling them for $20 or $30.
Yeah,
and so that's made it affordable too. Well, that's one of the reasons why we felt if we could get people to lock their cars, if we can limit the supply, the cost would go up, and maybe that would make it more prohibited. Unfortunately, in a lot of places, I hate to say this, is we have a lot of places in this community, whether it's in the central city or in the south part of town, that they're just not going to lock their doors, and they leave a weapon in there. And I have a gun as well, and I would never leave it in a locked vehicle either. But I'm just too scared of what might can happen. But unfortunately, we have those that don't take that responsibility to heart, and when they come into your car, they're going to get that gun. But I would like, at some point to come back again. And I would encourage you to have the district attorney, superintendent, state representatives. There's so many different issues, juvenile judges, and not necessarily to point a finger. I think we all need to say, let's point a finger at who's going to do what so we can solve the problem.
I would very much like to do just that, Mr. Mayor. And I'm asking you if you would communicate with me personally so we can set some of this stuff up. I think that this is a very good forum for everybody to be able to do just that and see if we can't shine some light on some things. I wish we had more time with you tonight. I understand that you do have to go. I appreciate you so much for coming on and sitting in with us. I hope that we can do this again. I plan to do this again next month if you're available. So please give me a call anytime.
We will, and also too, if you can, we can also help get Chief Sanders on, or Chief Blakely. we're talking about some very important things, and there's some key leaders at our team at the city that can help provide more information. The more we know, the better we are going to be at protecting our children and giving them a shot at being successful.
I absolutely, I actually think that that'd be a good idea. I want to do that. My major thing is to give a platform to our youth, to let them be able to speak. I think that they have a lot to say. They don't get heard the way they should be heard.
Well, and I'll leave you with this, Big Mike, and I'm sorry, it kind of cuts in and out. When Amari said, and I wrote this down, community genocide, that just sent shockwaves. Just to hear somebody so young say such a term that is, should make all of us hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's continue to work. Thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you so much for coming on. Please give me a call.
We'll follow up.
Appreciate it, Mayor.
You have a good night, Mr. Mayor.
Good night, guys.
Okay. We're gonna continue to go on here for a little while longer if y'all up for it.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
I'm trying to see who all still on the line with me, because y'all know who I am. I can't see nothing.
Hey, fellas, what's going on? This fan.
What up, G?
I'm gonna say, hey, look, I will say this.